welcome to episode number 50 of the House of Orange. My name's Frank Rock. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining the channel. Cannot express how grateful I am to get to this point with you. 137 subscribers. Still growing this thing. Been a little slow the last 2 weeks. That's all right. That's part of it. Had a good first month. Went definitely over what I anticipated, and picked up a lot of new followers on Twitter. So hopefully we can get a bunch of them to tune in as well. But let's get into this thing. Or before I get into it, make sure you share this thing, subscribe. Any of that's appreciated, guys. Just help grow this thing, and hopefully it'll lead up to covering specifically basketball and baseball. I would like to get into the post-game game with those. Football's not going to be my game. Too many of them doing it. I do want to come up with something that's unique for football to do on my own. Others have already kind of conquered that game. So, but we got a long ways till that's going. Basketball's in full gear. Baseball starts. We're 10 days away. Cannot wait for that as well. Tennessee tomorrow night plays LSU in Knoxville. Not going to lie about it. I look at this one and I like how this matches up for Tennessee, and I'll release in the morning. I'm going to record it here in a few minutes to release in the morning around 11 what my keys to victory are tomorrow night. But looking at LSU coming in. So LSU, they're currently 12-9, 4-4 in conference, and looking to conference standing. So Tennessee right now is 6-2. They're a half game out of second place. Alabama 8-1. We know who put that loss on them. South Carolina 7-2, Auburn 7-2, Tennessee 6-2. And then your next closest, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Florida, all tied at 5-4. So, I mean, you look at it, and Tennessee's had some good wins in this conference. They've beaten most of the upper half of the conference. Obviously, it didn't go too well against South Carolina. They haven't played Auburn. I just wonder if later on that Mississippi State loss may come back on them, because Mississippi State's currently 3-6 in conference. And, that doesn't look like that great of a loss at this point. And it's a game they should not have lost either. But, it was a road game in the SEC, and you have to anticipate at some point you may trip up in that environment. But just kind of look at the stats coming in here. So LSU, they're led by Jalen Cook, 15.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. Jordan Wright, 15.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds. Will Baker, 11.7 points, 5 rebounds. And your next two are Jalen Reed, 8.3. Mike Williams, the third, 8.2 points. So there's a lot of different statistics that is broken down on LSU. It's pretty fascinating. There's like 51 pages. If you go to UT Sports and you want to look at LSU game notes, it's crazy how much data, how much statistics is out there. But that's the combined team statistics, or I'm sorry, that's the individual. Now, if you look at points per game, LSU scores 77.5 points per game. They give up 72.2. LSU's field goal percentage for the year right at 46%. 3 points or 3-point percentage, 35.5. Free throws, 73%. Rebounds, about 36 per game. Assists, 12.5. Turnovers, 13 per game. Just a lot of these stats. Really, I just like how they play to Tennessee's strengths on this. I really do. And then in conference games, you got Jordan Wright, who leads them at 17 points per game. Jalen Cook, 16. Will Baker, 10.4. Mike Williams, 8.9. I thought it was kind of fascinating as well. They had the last 5 games, which tells you kind of a little bit more of the trends going on. So in that, Jordan Wright still 16.6 per game, 5.4 rebounds. You've got Jalen Cook, 16 points per game on it. Mike Williams, 11.2 points per game as well. So, just kind of looking at those stats. Again, it's I don't know. A lot of this just matches up well with what Tennessee does. And, also you got Will Baker, 11.2. So Will Baker is the guy I'm going to look at, because you've got Wright, who's 6'6". He's a grad transfer from Vandy. Will Baker, grad transfer from Nevada. Jalen Cook, grad transfer from Tulane, and Mike Williams, he is a freshman right now. So that's kind of your top 4 players. If you're looking stats, you look at the numbers on that. Will Baker, 7 foot 245. That's probably the guy that concerns me a little bit. And what Jonas Adu, what Tobe Awaka are you gonna get if you're Tennessee? That's what I look at. I look at those matchups a lot because in Tennessee's losses this year, that has been the difference in those games. It really has. I mean, you look at Purdue, Zach Edey, probably going to be the National Player of the Year. Kansas, Hunter Dickinson. North Carolina, I can't think of the center's name off the top of their head, but they've got a top-notch center as well. Mississippi State, that was the case. South Carolina, I mean, Adu and Awaka didn't have that great a game. Adu specifically didn't have that great of a game then. So I'm looking at that matchup. I'm looking to see how Adu answers that tomorrow night. How does this team respond? Is this going to be the Dalton Connect show again? Or is it going to be, is LSU going to try to focus on him and make the rest beat them? I mean, Kentucky did it, and a lot of guys stepped up in that game. Just so impressed with how many guys stepped up in that game. And, from Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan-James, Vescovy had some big shots. Of course, Connect still had a quiet 16 points. He doesn't even get mentioned much in that game. He still had 16 points. Adu had a double-double. Awaka was dominating for a point in time in that second half around the rim. Cam Carr, 3 minutes, but it was a very effective 3 minutes. The one shot he took wasn't pretty, but it was very effective beyond that. Based on LSU's defense, they score 78, around 78 per game, and it's not that big of a team when you really look at it. I mean, Will Baker is 7 foot. Other than that, I mean, you got Hunter Dean, Jalen Reed, 6'10". The rest of and Derek Fountain, who's a Mississippi State transfer, 6'10". Do they try to incorporate these bigger guys more? You got Damon Collins, Kentucky transfer, Corey Chest, who's a red shirt as well. I don't know. I say not that big of a team. I mean, they have numerous guys, but their main guys, it's pretty much guard-oriented other than Will Baker, the Nevada transfer. So Tennessee has to watch out for him. I like how this matches up for Tennessee. I like how it being at Knoxville. Of course, I liked it last week as well, but LSU is a higher score team than South Carolina. South Carolina is like basically the slowest pace of any team in Power 5 conferences. We're starting to see, Rick Barnes said it after the Kentucky game, we can get up and run. So if you're Tennessee, you want to see more of an up-tempo pace. And maybe all this time, these past few years, it's kind of seemed like that slower tempo team's giving Tennessee trouble. As much as Tennessee's defensive oriented, a slower tempo team is really giving them problems. So a team that scores just under 80 per game, I like that matchup for Tennessee, especially at home. I expect them to bounce back tomorrow night. I'm going to look at Tennessee 88, LSU 65. I'm looking for Tennessee to run them out of the building tomorrow night. I said the same thing a week ago, and it didn't happen. I feel pretty confident it'll happen tomorrow night. I'm going to release tomorrow around 11. Keys to victory for Tennessee tomorrow night. What are the key battles for me? What are the key statistics that do that? And then we'll go from there. LSU recap tomorrow night. I'm going to go ahead and record too. I'm going to release it at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Of course, I'm going back and forth between baseball and basketball right now. Not that focused on football just because I don't feel there's a lot going on. I say that and all hell will break loose tonight or something. But baseball pitchers, I'm going to look again. What's the rotation? What's the roles going to look like? I dropped a projection of the lineup. Basically, my lineup yesterday, and I'm a fan of that lineup, obviously, so probably a little opinionated on that. But check those out. Share it out. Anybody that's a basketball fan, a baseball fan, there'll be plenty of football content. There's a time and a place for that. My channel's game, primarily baseball, basketball. A lot of channels don't cover that. I'm going to cover it a lot. That's going to be my thing. And of course, I'd be an idiot if I didn't cover football as well. I hope you guys enjoy your night. Happy Tuesday. Frank Rock, House of Orange. Have a good evening. And as always, go Vols.